Where is Ramon? That's the question everybody keeps asking me for weeks and weeks on end. Well, I can finally tell you. But before we get into the main story, ladies and gentlemen, can I please ask you, if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. And if you really want to support me, this is Morning Shot. You can buy me a coffee. Check the link in the description box below. All proceeds do go to help pay the editors and the staff that keep the lights on in Morning Shot. But before we get on to the main news story, as per usual, let's just look at some other news. And the main news that really I want to focus on is actually the arresting of the founder of Telegram. For those of you who don't recall, there was a bit of controversy over WhatsApp. You remember they were going to open up some of the privacy, Facebook was going to share your data, and so lots of people started to assume that WhatsApp would become a little bit questionable when it comes to your security, specifically around what happens when the authorities want access to your security. So a lot of people shifted through to Telegram. This was mainly around the pandemic era, less said the better. And a lot of people were questioning the narrative, what was happening at the time. So a lot of people shifted onto Telegram because there wasn't so much censorship on Telegram. Now that actually, interestingly, is the reason that the founder of Telegram has now been arrested. So he landed in France and he was arrested basically because they said that he was a terror threat. He was a threat to, the usual stuff, democracies, far right, he's spreading misinformation, the usual things. But basically the upshot was they asked him to censor Telegram and to do forms of control over what was being spread in it. And he said no. He's now been arrested as a supposed accessory to the crimes that are supposedly being committed on Telegram, money laundering and whatever else. Anyway, you can let me know what you think of that in the comment section below. I mean, for me, it's like Tuesday afternoon in Europe because this seems to be the norm now. If you are far right, then let me translate that to you into normal people's language. It basically means I just don't agree with you. And a lot of individuals that want to exercise forms of free speech do seem to be getting the rough end of the stick from the European authorities. In other words, do what we say, otherwise you go to jail. Talking of another person that acts like that, this actually shifts our focus to Julius Malema. Now, you may recall that Julius Malema and Floyd Shivambu had a bromance and they fell out with each other, and Shivambu left the party for MK. Well, there's been a lot of speculation, and I've done a lot of videos on this because the news just keeps evolving. So it turns out that the EFF and KZN actually is almost at the point of disbandment because the dramatic fail that they experienced in that province was so problematic that everybody's blaming the leadership. Now, for those of you who don't record, actually Floyd Shivambu canvassed KZN and the EFF were really, really adamant that they were actually going to win KZN because, reasons. Anyway, they didn't win KZN. In fact, they actually got the lowest vote in KZN. And so everybody's blaming the leadership. And now that the actual person who spearheaded the campaigns has jumped to MK and MK got the largest vote in KZN, everybody's speculating that, the guys must all be in cahoots. So they talked about disbanding it, and they decided not to because they are reaffirming their progressive caucus and their commitment to it. Now, that in itself becomes really, really interesting because you see news has now come out that actually, for those of you who are celebrating the GNU, you have no idea how close you came to an ANC-EFF coalition. And actually, it turns out that according to the news, Julius's party, the EFF, actually managed to secure 4 cabinet positions and 4 deputy positions. But you see, they included Ndlozi and they included Shivambu, but they did not include Julius Malema. And so news is that allegedly Julius didn't like it. And so at the last hour, just before the coalition was going to be announced, Julius actually scuppered the plans on the basis that he was told that he would lose a large amount of support within the party because these two would actually have the finances of their ministry behind them and they could effectively ask Julius. So Julius scuppered the plans as leader of the party. Why Julius wasn't included, I'm not really sure. Possibly it could be because he was obviously also doing his negotiations behind scenes, and his negotiations were for deputy. So according to this article, Julius himself actually scuppered the plans at the very last hour due to nothing more than paranoia. And had Julius not had that, the EFF would most likely have gone into a coalition with the ANC. Now, for those of you who recall, the ANC actually preferred a coalition with the EFF, and that wasn't because of the ANC itself, but it was because of the alliance partners, specifically COSATU and the SACP. Those parts of the ANC have now obviously had their voice diminished, which some argue is the only reason the NHR is still on the table, because it was a brainchild of COSATU and the SACP, and they're like, okay, maybe it's still keeping them interested. Who knows? You can let me know what you think in the comment section below. Now, why that all becomes very interesting is because Julius addressed some of his supporters at a funeral, and he had some very interesting things to say. He said that actually, as the EFF, they would not be shaken, and that he called for parties to have what he described as black unity. Now, this becomes very interesting because we're always told that the EFF isn't necessarily a black party. It's a party for, the poor, disenfranchised Africans, but obviously blacks in particular. But it also includes white people. We're told that white people can join. Julius isn't racist. We're assured that all the time, right before he calls for this. He sings songs about clean the boers, but, I'm not here to make sense of him. Why this becomes interesting is that Julius has now come out and said that black unity cannot be led by an old man like Zuma. And this, my friends, is exactly what's wrong with Julius Malema as a whole. This flip-flopping attitude where I'm for Zuma, I'm going to have tea with Zuma, I love Zuma, we should have this black caucus and this progressive caucus, and now I hate him, and he's not the future leader. This is what people struggle with the EFF. As I've previously said in other videos, people want leaders. Where they hear the rhetoric is still the same tomorrow, regardless of the voting pattern. You can't just change your position depending on what I think is going to be the path of least resistance, where I'm going to get the most votes. People can see through that after a while, and this is another example of it. And this is exactly why Julius is falling out of favor. People are bored of the slogans and the racists, the little slurs, the headline grabbing. At the end of the day, people want stable politicians. And stable, Julius is not. We get onto the very final news story today. Yesterday, I did a video, and it really gave people chest pains. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't really know what to say about this, apart from Morning Shot, I try to be authentic. I'm not really the type of person that's just here to tell you what you think you want to hear. I'm not trying to give you a watered down of things. I'm trying to tell you things from my perspective, and I'm giving you the news. You can like it, you can lump it, you can enjoy it, you don't have to. I mean, at the end of the day, it's entertainment. News can be rather depressing, but it can also be entertaining. And we try to make the news entertaining and in a bite-sized fashion so that you can digest it in the quickest, easiest possible without feeling really hollow and worn out for the rest of the day. So all I can say is, for all of you who caught some feels by the video, I'll leave a light on for you. Now onto the main story. Where is Ramon? Now, I left the community post in the comment section because people kept asking me, where is Ramon? I'm sure you've all noticed he hasn't been on the channel, and there's a good reason for that. And that is, Ramon got himself a job as the chief of staff for John Steenhuisen at the Agricultural Ministry. Now, at the time when Ramon got approached for the job, the difficulty became that he has to go through forms of government vetting. And as part of that, let us not recall that we're controversial, hard right-wingers, and we're really scary. We're not really, but you know what the media tries to say about us. In fact, as you can see by this article, apparently Ramon's far right, big boogeyman of a slur. In any case, Ramon asked me not to say anything in order that his vetting was cleared without any comeback, because we all know what Ronaldo experienced when Ronaldo went to Parliament. So, unfortunately, I couldn't say much. But now the cat's out the bag. Ramon has been ousted as working in the Agricultural Ministry. Now, as part of this, he obviously can't be on the show. One, he's not impartial. And two, he could say something that potentially could get Jordan in trouble, because Ramon has a big mouth. We all know that. He likes to be controversial. So unfortunately, Ramon is no longer on Morning Shot. And for those of you who consider that a bad thing, all I can say to you is, I've worked with Ramon for a number of years now. Before COVID, Ramon ran Renegade Report, which is a podcast. The podcast was ultimately closed due to inactivity. You can make of that or what you want. During COVID, we started Morning Shot, and I myself never actually wanted to be behind the camera because I run businesses, and to be frank, I didn't really want to be cancelled for a view that we had. With that being said, Ramon wanted to be in front of the camera because it's what interests him. But around 2021, Ramon kind of started to lose interest in Morning Shot following the birth of a child of his, and it really, really drains you being involved in news. Because of that, I agreed to help Ramon and actually come in front of the camera and promote the program. It was that or close the program at the time. Now, since then, we've obviously co-hosted the program itself. And in doing so, we developed a good rapport between each other. We could bounce on each other. We knew more or less what each other would say. We spent a lot of time talking to each other. If you will, we almost became best friends. So what do I do now, ladies and gentlemen? I've worked on the program for a number of years. And to be honest, Morning Shot's important to a lot of people. A lot of people still want to see it progress. Now, for those of you who know how the separation of powers work, the media was always considered to almost be the fourth arm of government, in that the media was the people that held the executive and the judiciary and the various other elements of government to account. to help the people understand what the executive and the judiciary and so forth were doing. And Morning Shot has fulfilled that function. It would be an awful shame for all of our years on Morning Shot to let it go to waste. And I haven't. So I've continued to do the show, and I really hope that you'll continue to support it as the years progress. And I really hope to progress the channel. I really hope to be able to continue to do things in an impartial manner and to bring you news that you enjoy. And for now, ladies and gentlemen, all I can do is I can promise you that I will continue to do what we've always done. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave you and say thank you so much for everybody that continues to support the channel. I really do appreciate it. Together, I hope we can bring Morning Shots to new heights. Until next time.